Hey guys, what's up? It's La coming back to ya with a bit more of an energetic episode of Walk Switch La because the previous episode was kind of dreary and I lost my place fairly frequently. So hopefully that doesn't happen this time around. First things first, all the I think it's interesting because it reminded me of something my fifth grade teacher told me. Said something like when you're writing, it takes about 20 minutes of writing before you really get in the zone. You really get in the groove. And so I wonder if speaking is the same way, where it's like you have to start talking and then it takes a while for you to really get into it. Like, you know what I mean? I think it's an interesting thing to think about. I haven't really thought about it too much before, but, like I had remembered that memory. It's just, there wasn't a reason for it to be referenced, and now there is. Because I realized I was like, wow, well, I just like forced myself to keep talking, and I basically talked about nonsense the whole time. And then towards the end, I just finally decided that I was going to actually speak. So there you go. Yeah, I don't know. But what I do know is that my jaw pain is still kind of there, so it's really not a good sign because it's probably the longest I've ever had the jaw pain for, and I think it's what kind of is lowering my energy state, I mean, in addition to the atrocious weather, it's just, it's not fun. It's definitely not fun, especially since the jaw is actually the vessel that a human speaks through. It's pretty pretty frustrating, when you want to talk and your jaw is the thing. Like, it's not a good mix. It's not a good mix. I did come up with a breakthrough idea, but I'm not gonna document it, at least not yet, for reasons I may specify if I ever end up saying it. But for now, it's a private breakthrough. Anyways, I don't really remember what I was talking about at the end, but what I do remember now is that I was just kind of thinking quite a bit today about, what is it that we're really supposed to do? And obviously how the way I think is very different than most humans. And we've talked about and discussed that a lot. But then, what about what's healthier? Because you notice, it's difficult for me to really relax because I get enjoyment and I'm always thinking about optimization and trying to improve things or fix things or better things. But the problem is, at the end of the day, I'm just not that spectacular of a person physically, So it's kind of like my physical energy is low, but my mental energy is like through the roof. You know what I mean? Like, my physical body just does not want to go so often. And that's obviously a huge problem because my brain is actually held back as a result of that, because the more that you exercise and if I had more muscle and things like that, it would actually help the brain. It would help the whole body, and it would really unleash my brain. But it's just, my brain is a lazy brain. It's a slacker's brain. And even after all the diet change that I had, it's still just not cutting through that nature, that slacker's nature that I have. And, you know, in this world, that's not so good of a thing, is it? To have a slacker's nature. The world doesn't have much time for people like that, doesn't care much for people like that, and it's just a whole frustrating situation, you know, because it's very mental. But hey, I mean, in the not so distant future, as physical activity becomes less and less relevant and important, who knows? Like I said, maybe things will end up getting better for me. Maybe in the long run, it'll be good. I don't know. It's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting to contemplate and think about and all that stuff. I think so, at least. But the main thing I'm kind of wondering is trying to strike a balance between the two, because I know that the way I think, like, it's very good, and the world would be an amazing place if everybody was like me. But the problem is that the world is not everybody like me, you know, and so there's a lot of issues with that. It makes it so that in a lot of ways, some of my effort and thoughts, it's wasted. Like, it's like I'm trying, but you know, it's possible that for whatever reason there's some kind of limitation. Like, it's just not easy for me to, and it's not easy for me to exercise, or it's not, sorry, wow, it's actually difficult to speak with the dangerous weather. But we're almost halfway through, because once we're halfway through this episode, then it's only gonna be, yeah, see, that's why, like, there's no way I could actually do the 3 episodes a day thing, because there's definitely gonna be times the weather's just no good, and I still gotta find my winter coat. I think it's in my trunk, but I haven't checked yet. I keep forgetting to check my trunk for my winter coat. But yeah, so it's basically, I just think it gets to a point where we all have our own limitations. You know, like everybody has that, where it's like we just can't do it, and it's a shame, because you know that everybody can, technically. And how do you square that? I mean, if we really do have, if free will really is a real thing, I think there's fairly obvious proof that only some people have access to it. Like, you can't just say that everybody has the same degree of free will, because some people, you know, I'm going to use weight as one example. You know, if they're overweight, they actually are successful. You know, they're able to resist eating healthy and put in a lot of work and effort to exercise and lose the weight. You also have people who build muscle, even more difficult to build muscle and to work out. And you have those people, and technically it should be possible for anybody. It should be, and it is possible for me, but then it doesn't materialize. So how do you know if a person actually has the free will to pull it off? Like, and if I'm a weak-willed person, I mean, you know, I'd like to have control over that, but I feel like I've tried pretty hard. I feel like I have. So there has to be more of a science to it, because I really do think people are just cast aside as, oh, that person's lazy, oh, that person's just weak-willed, and it's like, well, there has to be some kind of an explanation for that. Now, it's possible a lot of it's environmental. I think we've talked about that before and kind of settled on that being the case, but I don't know that that reveals everything necessarily, you know? So there's kind of a, yeah, I mean, there's a strange component to that too, but I just think so many people, they're very dismissive in how they think, and I mean, if they had it their way where it's like only the strong survive, then maybe only the strong survive. But I think I might be an example of, the wise survive, where it's not, because it's really only a problem when you're weak and stupid. Like if you're lazy and stupid, that's really the problem. Because if you're physically a good worker but you're dumb, that's fine. You're going to do just fine in this world. But if you're smart and physically dumb, well, you probably can still eke it out. It just might be a little bit more difficult, like in my case. But, there's probably a place for you. It's just we live in such a physically biased world, and that's really one of the primary problems with this place, is it's so biased for the physical, and yet the physical, it's mostly bad and it's not very important. You don't really, there's a lot of problems with this physical place. And I don't think that's really addressed enough or addressed clearly enough. But that's all everybody thinks about, because it's like it's a survival thing. At the end of the day, we're just a bunch of animals, being like brain dead and bouncing around from thing to thing. So it's kind of like recently what my reflection has been, which is like what should a human do with themselves in this day and age? And I don't know if I have a super clear answer for that, or really what I got, but I have been thinking about it recently a lot more, because it's a very legitimate inquiry. Like we can't just be here and do whatever we want or do whatever we think. We have to really buckle down and try to do something in alignment with some kind of greater good or some kind of greater concept. That's really the ultimate truth. And so I'm thinking about that, but then I'm also thinking about mindset and what a person should be doing based on their mindset. And that's like extremely important as well, to have the right mindset, not just the right actions, like what we should be doing action-wise, but what is the correct mindset to have. I'm going to be dead honest. Totally lost track of what I was saying. I was thinking while I was talking, and my thoughts got the best of me, and then I don't even remember what I was thinking. So that's not really too great, is it? But yeah, you think about reality and what you're trying to do and what you're trying to figure out, and getting to the bottom of things. Also, the jaw pain, that's distracting me as well. Not fun, but what can you do? It is what it is. And so, yeah. My food was very tasty today, though. I really like it. I've really been happy with my food. They're refrigerated, not the heated up. Wow, I'm getting pulsating pain. Wow. Not fun, not good. Definitely not fun or good. So I think that's an additional excuse for my... Oh yeah, we're talking about will. Sorry, I was going to say excuse for my losing of track is the pulsating pain. We were talking about willpower and how it's like, I don't know, I guess it's like if it's really possible that everybody really does have willpower and control and self-autonomy, then why does that not manifest at all? I just think it's proof that there could be something there that we don't really comprehend or something. Or maybe it's true that the median human is just weak-willed, but in that sense we've constructed a society around people who we haven't constructed the correct place for us. You know what I'm saying? We've made a society where you're having to be strong to survive, but humans are not specifically that way. Where it's like, it seems like most of us are just not, you had a peak and now things slip. So it becomes difficult. It becomes difficult to survive as things get worse, because in nature, things don't really get better or worse. It's a consistent flat line. So if you have consistency, there's not really any problem. It's when you get down to inconsistency that you start running into problems. When you create a better world and then you let that better world slide away, that's when you run into problems. That's really where you're going to start running into problems and issues. Problems and issues. Dodging tree branches. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's really where we're at. It's really where we're at. But yeah, I mean, this is already a concept I've been discussed though. It's like cutting into new concepts and thinking about, like, is this even what the show should be about, or what the show needs to be, or what the show should be? You know what I'm saying? Like, it really, like, how much, what is our reality or purpose or whatever? I've recently been wondering about that, thinking about what our creator wants for us, what are we supposed to do. I always felt like people weren't serious enough, but, it's also possible maybe I'm just too serious. And so you have that conundrum at play where I'm trying to solve the answer, solve the problem, and figure things out. And then, like, I can't do it. So that's obviously a bad problem. You know what I'm noticing because of how dry my hands, I mean, they're not dry, but because they're out here in this air. The thing that's interesting is the matte finish on the phone. I mean, it really feels wonderful. It feels wonderful on the matte finish with dry fingers. And glossy, I don't think it really feels as good. I wonder if there's objectivity to that, or if that's just some random subjective opinion of mine. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, it's basically like, I feel like the matte finish, when there's oil, if a hand is air dried or cold bone dried, if a hand is bone dried, the texture of a matte finish, it feels better. Man, I'm sorry guys, I'm just trying to make it through this jaw pain, man. I really, it's not fun. It's hurting my creative abilities, man. We just gotta get rid of this jaw. This jaw's gotta go. This jaw's gotta go, because it's holding me back from what I'm supposed to do. So can't have that no more. Like, we gotta cut it out. We gotta cut it off. Gotta get rid of it. Definitely gotta get rid of it. Definitely gotta get rid of it. It's crazy how people don't care, It's crazy how little people care. And I always did, and people just make care such a subjective thing, but people aren't good at objective analysis anyway. I feel like we've talked about that a number of times. Everything to everybody is just a big mumbo jumbo mess up of random opinions, often incorrect, often wrong. But it doesn't matter because I guess belief is just that strong for people. It just is. It's just that strong. But it's silly, I wish people weren't like that. I wish we lived in a world where people actually cared about stuff. But yeah, man, care is it's a lost currency. Its value is dead. Its value is nothing. Yeah, man, today's been a real delirious day. You guys can probably tell. I'm hoping that this jaw pain, headache pain gets resolved mighty soon, because I really don't know how much I'm gonna go on with it. It's just really affecting me, and hopefully tomorrow's a better day. We'll see. I'll have to check my trunk for that winter coat, but yeah, I'm just trying to keep it lighter weight in the show. If depth comes, then depth comes, but if it's shallow shores, then that's where we're docking, That's just... Anyways, it's been schla, but now it's time to buy schla. So, see ya, schla.